What's cracking, people? This is your man, Cousin T, and welcome to this installment of
I'm trying to give you 60 seconds of affection.
60 Seconds of Selectcellence, where doubt and hateration meet observable reality. Now, today's installment is brought to you by the T-Taw Tabernacle. Feel free to donate to the Hot House Healing Building Fund. The link will be in the description down below. Now, today's file comes from something I found in the back of the internet. I'm just kidding. Shout out to C Boogie for that quote. Oh man, that's a quotable for sure. Like that should be on somebody's T-shirt somewhere. Look, we're gonna make a whole podcast based on that. Things we found in the back of the internet. No, but seriously, today's clip came up as I recommend on my feed, and usually when you type in certain things, obviously the algorithms try to match your search anticipation, right? And Angela Yee has a podcast that is the gift that keeps on giving, because next to nobody pays attention to the podcast, and a lot of people try to shit on her podcast saying that, she talks about sex and she brings women in to talk about sex, but people really don't hype up this particular podcast. And what's crazy about it is it's exactly what happens when you get a group of women in a room and you give them the ability to talk freely, openly, and honestly about their relationships with men, how they view men, what turns them on about certain men, what turns them off about certain men, and just different scenarios. But today's clip, and I'll leave the link to the original video down below. But what caught my ear when I was listening to this particular podcast was something that in my world we hear a lot, and that is that even though a woman may be separated from a guy, she could be divorced from a guy, they could have split up, broken up over whatever. It could have been a disagreement about religion or not politics, but just like how to run the household or whatever. End of the day, they end up splitting, but the woman will continue to sleep with her ex. And that's because besides being compatible sexually, he has had an opportunity to learn her body and to learn her mind and learn what gets her off. And a woman who has moved on, she could be dating, she could be quote unquote celibate, she could be being wooed and or courted by a prospective guy who wants to make something happen with her. And until she finds a guy who is compatible or better than her previous guy, she's going to continue to go back to her ex to get regular shots of that vitamin D. Okay, a lot of guys can relate in this sphere, in the select manosphere, to what I'm saying, because when you learn, when you enjoy sex, let me start there. When you as a man enjoy sex, and this should be another podcast in and of itself, a lot of guys don't enjoy sex, ironically. They just have it, either just for their own pleasure or because, they feel that that's the expectation. Without getting too deep into that, I'll just say this right here. Gentlemen, embrace sex, enjoy sex. You have permission to enjoy the process of sex. You have permission to enjoy other aspects of sex beyond just sticking it in, getting it off, and getting out. That's okay. It's totally fine. Like I said, well, I always address this in various forms and various videos and posts on my Patreon side, but I'll make a more PG version for the YouTube side. In any case, when a man is in a situation with a woman who, he realizes that they're sexually compatible, and he's learned her body, he's learned her rhythms, he knows himself, he knows the words to tell her and how to bring the orgasm out of her, basically. It's easy and it's enjoyable. And so most women do not encounter men like this on a regular basis. and that's just reality. So the basis for today's clip for the 60 seconds of Selectcellence comes from a conversation that Angela Yee was having with some ladies, and this particular thing was revealed.
That's the same with my boyfriend. Like, there's times that we've been on and off for so long, and there's times like I'm like, the only reason I'm giving this thing some pussy is because.
Gentlemen, let's be clear. We're in a space right now in the modern age where women are opening up more and more about what their expectations are, what their desires are, what they would like to enjoy and to appreciate in a partner at the end of the day. And we're not talking about some overinflated, princess layer out on a bed of roses type deal. They want men who understand themselves, understand their masculine presence well enough to be able to provide the woman with that which she can't get from a battery operated buddy, or she can't get from other sources. And that is a man who not only knows himself well enough to provide pleasure, but is open enough to understanding her rhythms, to understanding her physiology, to understanding what tips and tricks get her mind unlocked to the space that she can get off. And this is proof positive that when a woman finds a man who's capable of delivering that on a consistent basis, she is going to keep him around. If the relationship doesn't work out, that's unfortunate. This doesn't happen 100% of the time, but it happens the majority of the time. She will continue to reference this guy for that vitamin D, and she will keep him in a roster position until she finds someone who's comparable or better in her opinion. So that's it for today's 60 seconds of Selectcellence. Let me know what you think about this. If you can relate, I will leave the link to the original video down below. And as always, this is your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, saying stay sharp and mission focused. Later.